Okay, hello everybody, we are online right now. Come on, come on, come on, come on, 给我感觉。Fundamentalism. Note: the preceding quotation that Hamilton referred to was gold and silver coins, not merely silver. That is because it was precisely at this time that Congress began to consider a bimetallic coinage. In, in, in retrospect, in retrospect, this was a mistake for throughout history. Bimetallism has never worked well very long. It always has led to confusion and ultimately the disappearance as many of one of the metals. This is because there is always a subtle shifting of the relative values between gold and silver, or any other two metals for that matter, depending on constantly changing supply and demand. We may set a value ratio of 1 to the other that is quite acceptable today, but eventually that ratio will no longer reflect reality. The metal which grows in value over the other will be hoarded or possibly even melted down because it will bring a higher price as metal than it will as money. That is precisely what happened in the early days of our republic. It was determined after careful analysis of the free market that the value of gold at that time was approximately 15 times the value of silver. The Coinage Act of 1782 accordingly set the relative value of gold to silver at 15 to 1. It then authorized the federal government to mint gold coins called eagles, and it specified that their value was $10. In other words, the gold coins would be equal in the value of 10 silver coins. 10 silver coins each of grains of fine silver would contain a total of grains. The content of the eagle, therefore, was 1/15 that amount, or grains of fine gold. Grains, 格令，重量单位。grain. Contrary to popular misconception, Congress did not create a gold dollar. It didn't do that until 57 years later in the Coinage Act of 1849. In fact, it reaffirmed that the money of account of the United States shall be expressed in dollars or units, and again defined those units as coins containing grains of pure silver. What Congress did do was authorize the minting of gold coin and arbitrarily fix the value of gold in that coin at 15 times the value of the dollar. And it also stated that all silver and gold coins produced in the federal mint were to be legal tender in accordance with their value based on weight and purity. purity relative to the standard of the silver dollar. Oh, yes, another thing. I set the death penalty for anyone who debased the nation's coinage, a law which, if enforced today, would wipe out the House of Representatives, the Senate, the managerial level of Treasury Department, and the presidency as well. Free coinage. Perhaps the most important provision of this act, however, was the provision. But provision of this act, however, was the establishment of what called free coinage. Under free coinage, any citizen may take raw silver or gold to mint and for a nominal fee have it converted into coins or personal use. The government merely performs a technical function of creating the coin and stamping it with its insignia to certify the correct weight and purity. The state's role in this is exactly the same as inspecting the scales in grocery store or the meter on a gasoline pump. It is merely fulfilling the constitutional requirement to set standards and verify the accuracy of weights and measures. Free coinage was to become an important part of the American success story, and it lasted until the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, which not only terminated it, but even made it illegal for citizens to process gold. We shall take a closer look at that dismal period in a later section, but for now it is important to recall the greatness of our monetary system as it once was. Eugene Grosclose explained, the principle of free coinage has proved its practical worth as a deterrent to debasement and depreciation. Where coinage is on private accounts, there is no profit to the states in tampering with the standard, and there is no opportunity for such practice by the individual. The calculation of the coins of similar appearance and the nomination, but of uncertain standard, the arbitrary and unpredictable unpredictable modifications in the stand by autocratic government, the temptations to profit, which were constantly dangled before despotic rulers. These were evil, which had perplexed and harassed society and hindered the natural growth of economy since the days when coined money first appeared. By a stroke, they were swept away. At the same time, the institution of free coinage, by giving stability and character to one of the chief instruments of organized economy, made possible a more vigorous and health commercial life and gave prestige and increased substance to the government dominate. 到底采用哪种 monetary 货币政策？自由铸币的原则已经证明了 the principle of free coinage 自由铸币 applies practical words as a deterrent 贬值贬损。在私人铸币的情况下，国家篡改标准无利可图，个人也没有机会从事这种行为。外观和面额相似但标准不准确的专利政府对标准随意且不客观因素，不但诱使专制统治者牟利的诱惑。这些自从铸币出现以来一直困扰和骚扰社会，妨碍经济，被一举扫除。同时，自由铸币制度通过为有组织经济的主要工具之一赋予稳定性和特性，使更具活力和健康的生存可能。deterrent deterrent is a deterrent to debasement and depreciation. Free coinage, debasement, and depreciation. Where coinage is one private account, there's no profit to the state in tampering with the stand, and there's no opportunity for such practice by individual. Where coinage is on private accounts, there's no profit to the state in tampering with the stand, and there's no opportunity tampering and there's no opportunity for such practice by individual. The circulation circulation or coins of similar appearance and denomination the denomination, but of uncertain stand, the arbitrary and unpredictable modification, 随意且不可预测的修改 stand by autocratic governments. The temptations to profit, which were constantly danger danger before the despotic rulers. These were evils which had perplexed and harassed society and hindered the natural growth of economy since the days when coin money first appeared. Uncertain, autocratic, danger By a stroke, they were swept away. By a stroke, they were swept away. At the same time, the institution of free coinage, giving stability and character to one of the chief instruments of organized economy, made possible a more vigorous and healthy commercial life and gave prestige and increased substance to the government dominate. At the same time, the institution of free coinage, by giving stability and character to one of the chief instruments of our economy, made possible a more vi- vigorous, sorry, vigorous, vigorous and healthy commercial life, and gave prestige, 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 oh my god, prestige, and increased the substance of the government dominate. Sound money and economic prosperity. Okay, sound money, and this was indeed an auspicious, 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 auspicious beginning of the new nation, and the result was immediately observable in an upsurge in prosperity. The December edition of the Pennsylvania Gazette declared, since the federal constitution has removed all danger of our having a paper tender, our trade is advanced 15%. But that was just the beginning. Historian Douglas North says that the years were years of unparalleled prosperity. Louis Hacker describes the period as one of the unexamined business expansion, one of the great in fact the United States has had. The exports of the country mounted from 19, 19 millions to 83 millions in, oh my god. Furthermore, federal the fig the fixed the fee third, which amounted to 28% of expenditure in dropped to 21% in by the deficit had disappeared altogether and had been replaced by a surplus that was almost as large as the government's total spending. George Washington watched this economic miracle with great satisfaction and in correspondence in correspondence to his friend under the French statement and former general in Continental Army Washington commented, "Our country, my dear, there is fast progression in its political importance and social happiness." In a letter to Corduroy Martin, he said, "The United States enjoys a sense of prosperity and tranquility under the new government that could hardly have been hoped for. And in a letter to American poets and diplomat David Hammer, Washington exclaimed, "Our public credit stands on that high ground which 3 years ago it would have been considered as a species of madness to have forethought." On the specific subject of paper money without backing by gold or silver, Washington wrote, we may one day become a great commercial and flourishing nation. But if in the pursuit of the means we should unfortunately stumble again on unfounded paper money or any similar species of fraud, we shall assuredly give a fatal stab to our national credit in its infancy. This, then, was the monetary blueprint laid down by the man who drafted our Constitution in retrospect. In retrospect, retrospect，事后看来，in retrospect about the only flaw one can find was the attempt to set a fixed ratio between the value of gold and silver, rather than placing a dollar value on a gold coin. The means should have imprinted the gold value in terms of weight and fineness. The free market then would have assigned it an exchange value in terms of gold and services, and that automatically would have determined its correct monetary value as a ratio to the silver dollars, which were bidding for the purchase of the same item. It was inevitable, therefore, that soon after the $10 eagle was created, the value of gold over silver began to climb higher than the prescribed ratio to 15 to 1, and the eagles ceased the circulate. In later years, with the discovery of the great gold field in California and Australia, the process reversed itself, and silver dollars disappeared from commerce. But even though the bimetallism led to the discrepancy between the actual conversion ratio and that which the government had prescribed. Nevertheless, it took place in the open market, and no one was greatly injured by the inconvenience. Throughout it all, there was just one stir that determined the defined silver content of a dollar. Furthermore, both the silver and gold coins were intrinsic value and totally honest in their measure. No nation could do more for the prosperity of its citizens than that. Summary: the Constitution. Okay, summary: the Constitution prohibited both the states and the federal government from issuing fiat money. This was the deliberate intent of the founding fathers, who had bitter experience with fiat money before, and especially during the Revolutionary War. In response to the need to have the precisely defined national monetary unit, Congress adopted the Spanish dollar, then currently in use, and defined the content of that dollar to be grains of pure silver. With the establishment of Federal Mint, American silver dollars were issued in accordance with that standard, and gold eagles also were produced, which were then equal in value to 10 silver dollars. Most importantly, free coinage was established, wherein Americans were able to convert their raw silver and gold into national coins officially certified by the government as to their intrinsic value. The product of these measures was a period of sound money and great economic prosperity, a period that would come to an end only when the next generation of Americans forgot to read their history and returned to the use of paper money and the bills of credit. The monetary plan laid down by the founding fathers was the product of collective genius. Now, nowhere in history can one find so many men in one legislative body who understood the fraud inherent in fiat money and the hidden taxation nature of inflation. There was never such an assembly of scholars and statesmen determined to set a safe course for the nation of their own creation. Literally, they handed us a treasure map. All we had to do was follow it to economic security and national prosperity. But as we shall see in the following section, the map was discarded when the lessons of history died out with those who had lived it. The creature comes to America. Oh my God. The story of Bank of North America, the nation's first central bank, which was formed even before the Constitution was drafted. The story of First Bank of the United States, the nation's second central bank, which was formed in 1791, the massive inflation caused by both banks, the cause of their demise. Demise. Okay, I think that's all for today. Goodbye, see you tomorrow. Bye bye, see you. 哇，这章读得很爽哎。